Hello, welcome to episode 2 of Gregie and Me.
I am Farmer Gregie, published author of Holy Cow, and I'm a little bit country. She's a little bit rock and roll. No, it's not Donnie and Marie, but we are brother and sister.
Yeah, Gregie and Michelle. Okay, yeah, so I was thinking after we did our first podcast that we didn't really introduce ourselves. So many of you know Greg as Farmer Gregie, and he's done a lot of lives, and I don't tend to jump on video too often, so that's new for me. So yes, welcome to the world of video for me. So Greg has written a book, and I am an author, and
You've
I have
written multiple.
several books. These are the two that I like to promote at the moment. They're fiction. This is in verse, and they're both young adult novels. Find them on michelledennisevans.com. And I also have a huge interest in health and wellness. And this podcast is sponsored by an incredible stem cell technology, the X39. So if you just want to pop X39 in the comments, we'll let you know more about the incredible technology.
I'm wearing mine now.
Got yours on you?
Yes.
Yeah. It's just been incredible with Greg's recovery. So we're doing a short chat today when we thought we'd just talk a little bit about Greg's hospital visit, which lasted for months.
My first overnight stay in the hospital turned out to be 310 days. Not really what I was looking for at that time of my life, because I'd just started working 2 jobs that I was thoroughly enjoying, and when I had the stroke, it meant no more jobs because I needed my license for both of them. But I guess we'll just talk a little bit about what happened and what I saw and what Michelle saw. And interesting just about the patches. You can explain how you come across them and when we started using them. But the glasses I'm wearing today are like 2 prescriptions ago. My eyes have continued to recover to a point where they're better than they were 3 years ago.
It's incredible.
Crazy, really.
Yeah, so back on the 21st of June last year, I got a phone call from Mum, and she asked me to go straight to the hospital and said, it's Greg, and he's had a stroke. And he's in emergency. And when we arrived at emergency, my husband Shane drove me, and we were asked to call all the family in because Greg's brain was swelling quickly and his airways had collapsed. So they took him into emergency surgery as we arrived at the hospital. And big sis Thea drove down from Gympie with her husband, and Mum wasn't able to come to the hospital. She was herself healing from a stroke, and yeah, Greg's son came over as well, and we sat in the waiting room for hours to see what was going to happen.
Of course, at this stage, I didn't know there was anything going on because I was having an afternoon nap.
Yeah, a very extended afternoon nap.
Yeah.
And after a few weeks, Greg still wasn't breathing on his own. They tried several times and his airways continued to collapse. So they then wanted to put a tracheostomy in, and Thea and I had to make that decision along with Jewel to make the decision whether to do that or not. And after prayer and consideration, we did, which was great.
You got a thumbs down, then a thumbs up.
Yeah, so even though Greg can't remember anything in ICU, he was giving us thumbs up and thumbs down. And a little nod of the head or a little shake of the head at times.
Because I couldn't talk at that time.
You don't remember any of that, though, do
I
you?
remember them telling me to communicate with thumbs up if I could hear. Yeah.
And so after 30 days in ICU, they went to take the tracheostomy out, and Greg still wasn't breathing on his own, so they had to put it back in, I think. Is that right?
Well, it was funny because the first thing I remember when I woke up was getting wheeled out of the room wherever I was in the bed. And as I looked backwards as we went through the door, there was a nurse there holding a handwritten note that said, I thought it said 33 days and in ICU. And I said, what was I doing in there? There's nothing wrong with me. Because when I remember clearly when I had the stroke, we were walking in the morning. I had driven an hour down to the coast from home and we were launching a balloon. It was just about ready to go and I fell over. I just fell over. I didn't know what had happened. My boss was there with me and he said, Gregie, there's something wrong. I'm going to bring the ambulance. I said, Murray, don't be silly. There's nothing wrong with me. I said, I've got no headache or no dizziness, no chest pain. Whatever it is, it'll go away. Nothing wrong. Don't worry about an ambulance.
And praise the Lord, he did call the ambulance. Yeah.
He said, no, Gregie, there's something wrong. I'm going to ring the ambulance anyway. And I did remember the ambulance backing up. We were in Helensvale in a little vacant lot of land where we're launching the balloon.
Approximately 10 minutes away from the hospital.
It was probably closer to 5 minutes. I think it was 10 minutes from being operated on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then
I don't recall much of being in the coma, but I found out afterwards that I had a fair few family there, like my two sisters, Michelle and Thea, and my kids were there at different times. My ex-wife thankfully drove Jack down to see me, and Mum and Dad were there too at the start. And Michelle was playing a lot of worship music for me, which was playing in my head. And I'm sure the family that were there was saying positive things to me. And I do remember Jack saying, it's going to be okay, Dad, we're here with you. And whatever was being said and the combination of that and the worship music, I come out of the coma and said, don't worry about me, kids. I'm going to make a full recovery. I'll be okay. And it didn't seem to matter what the doctors told me. And they try to be helpful, I suppose, prepare you for the worst. Because their experience, they see these sort of things and they don't expect people to recover, and I think a lot of that is belief and faith, which have become developed a very strong faith again. I always had faith, but the belief was, I guess we were just speaking about faith and belief. They're kind of similar, but not exactly the same. You can have faith, but perhaps not fully believe. Whereas now I'm very much a believer. At times I've probably questioned my faith a little bit and how much I believed, or I guess you always get that thought, you're wondering if it's all real what we're taught about God and Jesus and heaven. But now that I've been there, I've met Jesus and I've been to heaven, I know it's real. I have no doubt anymore, no doubts at all. The belief is rock solid. So not everybody gets that privilege to experience something so clear and vivid.
yeah. So then the next part of Greg's hospital journey, he was in the ward at Gold Coast Uni Hospital, and they had several tests that they had to get through before they could remove the tracheostomy. And then the hindrance came with the pneumonia, hey?
Yeah, I developed hospital-induced pneumonia, which was the sickest I've ever been in my life. That was the only point in time after the stroke that I was really questioning if I was able to recover. I just felt so sick.
Yeah, and it wasn't once. You were just about over it, and you got a second dose of it, which was really tough. So the longer the tracheostomy went in, they were telling us that the more likely it wouldn't come out, or that he would have to wear it forever. Um, the funny note on the tracheostomy is that Greg was the most talkative person with the speech valve in that they've ever seen at the hospital.
Who'd believe that, eh?
Couldn't shut him up. And I cannot explain the joy I felt when Greg actually rang me the day it came out and spoke to me in his
Another
quiet and natural voice.
A really funny thing is, one day Michelle said, "It's so good to hear you talking again." I was like, I didn't know I hadn't been talking. I had this couple of weeks when I woke up from the coma. I was lying there thinking I could hear all these voices in my head. I was having conversations with someone, I don't know, talking to myself in my head. I could hear voices. I didn't realize I wasn't talking. It was quite bizarre.
And then knowing that Greg had been lying down for a very long time, there was a few times where he was tilted in a tilt chair. Finally, physio started and made your first appearance outside and actually got some sunlight after about 6 weeks. Went up and it was a really cold, windy day. And he got really cold. Unfortunately, we had to get a blanket because it was actually a really chilly afternoon. And then they kept, that bothered you, didn't it, when they were getting you to do stands and reaching for a straw? You were wanting a golf club.
Yeah, I said, can't we start practicing golf? I didn't know that I had an arm and a leg that weren't working at that point. So it was all a very slow process of rebuilding back to things I could do. Was very limited at the start.
Yeah. Yeah, even eating was a challenge because the scarring after a trachea hinders the amount of food that can go down the throat. And
Well, it was difficult for an 8-week period. I was just fed by tubes down the nose, just a liquid mush. I don't know what it was. So I had only been taking in a very small amount in my stomach. And when they did take the trachea out, they told me if I didn't eat enough food, I would have to get the tubes back down the nose, which I really didn't like.
yeah, so funny thing about the tubes, everyone who went to visit was actually on hand watch because while Greg was in ICU, his right hand would often just go up and scratch and pull to pull the tubes out. So we were all on hand watch. One nurse actually tied his arm to the bed, and that really bothered Greg. We could all see that he was very agitated by that. So some of the nicer nurses would do different things to help him not go right up to his nose with his hand. But it was definitely, he needed 24/7 watch to keep that arm down from just bumping it out. And it was quite uncomfortable. Then once in the ward, you had to go down to x-ray quite a few times to get that tube put back in, and that was really uncomfortable and bummed you too.
Yes.
Yeah. Not a nice feeling.
No.
Not a nice feeling. Anyway, I think we might stop there and we'll talk about the next part of Greg's journey on our next podcast. I just want to add that listen to your body because Greg did have signs beforehand. For a few years, his health wasn't great and he was coming in and out of really working with his body to come back into equilibrium. So we know how to look after our body. We've got an innate part of ourselves that will tell us when we're not well. Listen to that small voice. Listen to that and do something about it, and don't wait until you get that ambulance call. On that note, we will return. Yes? Okay. See you all next time.